When we have a democratic state that is reliant on a functioning parliament, when we have a parliament that cannot hope to function effectively due to a lack of mechanism to control a rowdy assembly, when we have a situation whereby riot police have been called in upon multiple occasions because your wonderful sergeant of arms couldn't handle the situation, then we have no choice but to have police intervention in Parliament. We have no choice but to stand with side proposition. Within today's debate, we see that we have come to reach two main points. First of all being the role of Parliament, and secondly being that of the police. And on both cases, we see that there have been major misconceptions and that the definition of these have been largely misconstrued by side opposition. And I will be clarifying this. But I would like for side opposition to clarify is which line they are taking within today's debate. As even within Nick's speech itself, we see that we have a major conflict of team line. First of all, they were telling us that they have an issue with police intervention, and this was what Nick set out their debate to be. And secondly, what their argument was that they have an issue with Parliament itself. And so I'll actually be dealing with both of these, but I'm hoping that by their third speaker, they can clarify what they think today's debate is actually about. And may I remind you, it is about police intervention and not about having a problem with Parliament. And with that, I'd like to move on to my first issue, and that is the role of Parliament. And this is where I'd like to deal with Nick's line, and that being the idea that the Parliament has an issue itself. He outlined to us that that rules that the Parliament currently has, the rules that are being infringed upon, and the rules that we want to deal with are currently hindering Parliament, and that these rules are redundant, and that in fact we need disruption within Parliament. So I'd like to refer Nicholas to the mandate of Parliament itself. So what we see the core mandate of Parliament is for the Speaker to be able to address the public, so that we can have an interaction and there can be a mechanism and an institution to facilitate the interaction between people and the government. They also exist to pass laws and to make decisions. What we see is that when your core principles are so that you can communicate, when we see that people are shouting at you, people are banging on desks, to the point where we've had 2 instances, in fact 3 instances, whereby people have had to stop speaking due to this, we see that we are largely hindering the primary objective of Parliament. So unless Nick would have us propose an ulterior to Parliament altogether, which we see already exists, what we see is that what Nick wants to achieve can largely be achieved through other mechanisms, can largely be achieved through other things that are currently in place, but not Parliament. Parliament exists to facilitate interaction and discussion that cannot happen when you are screaming at someone, contrary to what Sasa would have us believe. Okay, they then mentioned that in Parliament that we are in fact propagating chaos, and they then told us that we're going to end up with a Ferguson situation. So first of all, aside from that being the slippery slope of the century, we see that they largely ignored our definition, whereby we outlined that there would be no guns. And unlike what Sasa would have us believe, that this is largely still going to be functional, because we see that they will still be able to control the public and to just have a presence of the police within there as not only a deterrent, but also as a controlling feature. And finally, we see, and this is what I'd like to link, the idea that they told us that there already is a Sergeant of Arms, and that we have to prove that the Sergeant of Arms is incapable. Okay, well, first of all, we've proven this through examples of the 21st of August, which has been brought into contention on both sides. But we see that as was mentioned in our policy, the only time in which the police would step in is when the Sergeant of Arms has requested them to do so. Within the status quo, what currently happened, as I'll be dealing with later in my speech, is they're currently phoning the riot police. What we propose as an alternative is that the police be standing at the ready, and if the Sergeant of Arms deems the situation such that he cannot deal with it, he can then ask the police to please step in as an arbitrator to the problem. Okay, next I'd like to move on to this idea of the nature of the police. And first I'd like to look at this idea that we are suppressing ideas within Parliament. So again, I'd like to link back to my analysis of the role of the Parliament. So what we see is that with the events of 21st August, and that was that of Mbiti that we brought up, was that these are the ideas that need to be getting across. The ideas that need to be getting across is that of the Speaker with the opportunity for interaction with the National Assembly. What we see is that the ideas that were suppressed during these instances were the ideas of the speakers. We see that in both instances, when our speaker had to step down because they simply could not continue because of the lack of control, we said those are the ideas that are being suppressed, those are the ideas that we need to hear in Parliament, and those are the ideas that need to be protected. We see that in fact, if we go on to ideas that you said the police can only intervene when there are harms to a person, we see that Mbiti actually stepped down and actually tried to take a stance to suppress their ideas, saying, we don't care about what you say. We said that's harmful. The only reason she did this was because she claimed that she felt attacked. The fact that she felt attacked means that we need this police independency. I've shown you how the police need to act independently, that your issue where you say the police are going to act independently to dictate actions of Parliament, I showed you how this won't happen, as it is only when the Sergeant of Arms asks them to. Such as the riot police and the status quo, only with a far more efficient process, whereby we can maintain order and then continue with Parliament, and have a normal Parliament, and Parliament still fulfill its function with some sort of efficacy. And with their statistic, about 100 people who die when they're interacting with the police, we ask them to please check their stats, because we have done the research and we tell you that it is only 14% of people who come into interaction with the police who actually have fatalities. A little bit final idea, when they asked us who the police are held accountable to, we said the police are held accountable to the same entity as that of the Parliament. That being that they are held accountable to the Constitution. They are held accountable to the rules that make sure that our Parliament is able to function effectively, that our democracy is able to function effectively, that our Parliament can do its jobs, and whatever Nicholas wants to have as discourse can happen elsewhere. Thank you.